The National Football League was on the brink last year, not of death, let's not talk crazy now, but the type of loss of relevance that has humbled baseball and boxing over the past generation or so. But now, as the NFL's 100th season kicks off this week, there's a sense of fresh energy. And I would argue that if football is going to make a full comeback, technology is going to have to play a big role. First, a word about where we've been. Football was the undisputed champ of major sports leagues, popularity-wise, but between critical tweets from President Trump, fans angry about players kneeling during the anthem, fans angry that Colin Kaepernick doesn't have a job after kneeling, concerns about player concussions and safety, the spotlight was withering. Now things appear to be turning. The NFL struck a deal with Jay-Z's Rock Nation to promote music and merchandise that will benefit social justice causes, possibly addressing the move for player activism. The owners and players are already at the table for collective bargaining, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones told CNBC this week, in hopes of presenting a strong case to both broadcast and streaming partners. Esports is gaining in popularity, potentially boosting the brand of the real game. And legal sports betting, enabled by smartphones, has some fans closer attention than ever when it comes to football. So, welcome to Fort Knox, rich ideas and powerful people. I am John Fort from CNBC here at the NASDAQ market site overlooking Times Square. With me this week, CNBC sports guy, Eric Chemi. You're also a data guy.
That's right.
You're a guy,
right.
guy for all seasons.
I got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, you got a lot of things going on. So, how bad was it this last year for the NFL, you think?
Last year was actually pretty good because they were up about 5%.
But the beginning of the year wasn't looking so hot.
A year ago.
Yes,
right
a year ago.
Before the season started, we were talking about, so remember, it's 2018, we're going into the midterm elections, and we were talking about how Republicans were going to make the kneeling issue in the NFL part of their midterm election strategy. You were going to see this over and over and over again, but then all of a sudden, it kind of just went away. All of a sudden, you had great performances by people like Patrick Mahomes. People started focusing on what was on the field again, and they seem to have gotten away from all the negative noise.
Yeah,
maybe
Will
it'll
Smith
come back
did a
this year.
movie about concussions.
Right.
I mean, granted, that wasn't just last year, but there was all of that momentum about negative stuff.
So you had all that negative thing, but think of it like a stock, right? When all the negative news is baked in, usually the stock doesn't go down anymore. The National Football League, those ratings, the 2 years prior went down, call it almost 10% each of those years. So to bounce back up 5, you're still far away from where you had been at the top a couple years ago. But yes, a lot of people were thinking, hey, if we can do a single-digit loss, that'll be good. All of a sudden, it was a 5% gain, so much better than they thought.
And the headlines weren't looking that great overall. I mean, the Maroon 5 halftime show, I mean...
Weak.
Yeah.
Just a little too PC, a little too easy, right?
Right. And so there's that. There's the stuff around safety that we've talked about. I feel like if the Andrew Luck stuff had happened, I don't know, a year or two ago, people would be fundamentally questioning the viability of the NFL as the most popular league. Football is the most popular sport in a way that they aren't today.
What's interesting, though, is you look at the kid level, we see high school football participation is really going down very quickly. A lot of parents don't want their kids playing. A lot of kids don't want to play because they know what's going to happen. So they'll play safer sports, let's say, whether that's soccer, baseball, lacrosse, but they also want to watch football. So there's a differentiation between, oh, I play this, but I watch that. Maybe in 20 years, that might not necessarily be true, because how many kids are boxing these days? How many people are watching boxing? They've both suffered over the last 50 years. But for now, you can see this dichotomy. That's why the league is pushing things like flag football, because they know it's kids who play football that will be their biggest fans in the future. So it might take 30 years for this whole cycle to play out.
And I feel like the tech is starting to creep in. We're going to talk more about this later, but if we're talking about even the way that people consume football, a few seasons ago, it was like, okay, maybe 4 games. They'll test this out. Twitter, Yahoo, a little bit. Now we're up to, what, 11?
A lot of games, right? A lot of games. You look at all the streaming. You look at Amazon is involved here. You've got all these big players. You've got the risk of, well, what if the big tech players come and they want to buy up rights against NBC, CBS, Fox, and Disney? So that's also partly why the league, they want to get this collective bargaining agreement done with the players union as soon as possible so that they can go to the big streaming partners and say, hey, you know there's not going to be a strike. You know there's not going to be a lockout. You can get these games on your platform. They're not necessarily trying to sell to Amazon or Yahoo or name your tech provider, Facebook, Google, whatever. They just want to make sure that CBS and NBC and ESPN and Fox pay the most amount of money possible. Because remember, their business is to get the most eyeballs watching. Think about it. CBS, and Fox, these are over-the-air free networks. You could you could watch them with your antenna. So they're not necessarily trying to get this on a streaming platform that few people have. They want a lot of eyeballs.
And they're selling stability, right? I mean, it's the NFL. You know what you're getting. You know what the rules are. There's 4 quarters, there's popular players. Here's how it works. You know, you get your timeouts. You can throw in your commercials. I mean, unlike so much out there with user-generated content or YouTube stars who go rogue, like generally when it's Thursday night football, you know what you're going to get.
Well, think about why they made the networks give their #1 play-by-play crew to do the Thursday night game. So you think about, typically speaking, a Jim Nantz, Tony Romo type of group that does the best game on Sundays. If you're CBS, and similar with NFL, NBC and Fox, they've got their primary broadcast team. So the NFL usually says, hey, if you want Thursday night games, we want your best team doing Thursday. We want Thursdays to seem like a big event.
Right.
Because we know the games are often pretty bad because it's Thursdays, but we need to make it seem like this is the game of the week.
Oh, once again, this is Fort Knox talking football because the NFL is kicking off its 100th season, and my thesis is that technology is going to be front and center if the game is really going to have the resurgence that it's trying to position itself for. So it's time to get some digits. It's a part of our program where I like to call up some numbers that are especially relevant to our conversation. Siri is going to give it to us. Siri, what's up first?
$89 million.
$89 million. That is how much the NFL originally agreed to donate over 7 years to address, quote, social issues considered important to African-American communities. And Eric, since then, we just had this deal between Rock Nation, that's Jay-Z's outfit, and the NFL. They're going to put out some special songs that are kind of around this social justice theme. Meek Mill, Rhapsody, others have signed up to do that. Also, there's going to be merchandise. They're going to use the NFL's platform to kind of put it out there so people buy it. The argument, at least from a business side, is that that's going to give more funding to these programs nationwide. Do you think this is going to solve the problem? Because my take is, if it's going to get closer to solving this social justice issue that the NFL has, it's going to take technology, social media in particular, to spread the word about these products.
Right, because just us watching the game normally, that's not going to change. They like to keep that pretty consistent. That's not going to solve any problems. If you use these other avenues, right? Because think about where the people are that are affected by these issues, where they are on the media side, right? They are on social media. They're generally a younger audience. They're a more urban audience. They're not necessarily the guys sitting there watching the games like we used to watch 25 years ago. So to be able to reach that consumer, I think you're right. You're going to need social media. You're going to need these other avenues. Music, everything music now is technology, right? There is no physical music. It's all streaming. It's all videos. It's all social. So I think that is going to be something to be seen.
How do you think this is going to work?
Is it?
How do you think this is going to work, though? Because when I think of the NFL and merchandise, I think about that commercial that comes on right after the Super Bowl where, you know, buy the T-shirt.
Oh, right, the Fanatics ad and the guy's wearing the jersey, yeah.
Right. Is it going to be like a social justice T-shirt with Jay-Z modeling? I don't think so.
But I think if it's that, people like you and I know that's BS. Right? Well, I'm not going to buy that T-shirt. What does that mean?
So I know they'll have a concert connected to the game with some artist coming out with a song. I mean, I wonder what they're going to have to do to really kind of use that NFL platform, whether it's social, whether it's on TV, in a way that feels authentic.
That's the key, in a way that feels authentic. Because if you do it wrong, you're just going to make more angry the same people that were angry in the first place, that just think, look, is this just some corporate thing? Are they just moving money around? Are they trying to bribe my happy feelings here? Okay, because they paid Jay-Z and they paid his company, that I should be okay with this now. I don't know. But I think that's why you're going to see the players and their technology. The players have their own social media outlets. They can say what they need to say. There's that players coalition, and there are a lot of players that are not part of that coalition that'll speak out directly against it. So we may see a lot more of this antagonism, this acrimony playing out in a technology-based world that's not being seen on TV.
Started. I mean, I left out Megan Trainor. You remember her from All About That Bass and If Your Lips Are Moving and whatnot.
Right.
You know, when the announcement came out about Rock Nation heading this thing up, the first 3 artists they announced were Meek Mill, Rhapsody, and Megan Trainor. And, you know, Black Twitter just kind of went in on Meghan Trainor.
Wait a minute, why is she
how is she going to solve the social justice?
Right.
I was like, wait a minute, didn't you see Meek Mill in there? Come on.
But right, exactly.
Wasn't free Meek Mill just last week, and all of a sudden?
Instead of the two guys that they're happy with, they focus on the one that we don't want to be there.
Yeah.
They would have been better off just having two instead of three. When all of a sudden you're subtracting by adding, that's a bad PR.
But that's not diverse. I don't know. It was a rough spot to be in. It just shows how rough, I think,
but now we'll see how much they actually utilize her.
Yeah.
Is she going to pop up again, or will that be the last we ever hear from her?
People like Meghan Trainor.
But which people? Is it the right people for this audience?
You gotta get a little bit of everybody. That's what I think. All right, Siri, let's give us that next digit.
11.
11. Simple. That's how many games will be simulcast and streamed on Amazon this year. How far away are we from no longer needing a cable subscription to watch the NFL? Well, we were scratching the surface on this a little bit ago. The NFL is all about an absolutely huge audience. I don't know. I can't see them just allowing anybody without a subscription necessarily. But granted, I mean, NBC, some of these channels you can get over the air.
Right.
But it seems like we're a long way from streaming being the primary way that a lot of people get these games. I watch them on a small screen. It's kind of like they're viewable, but it's not as good as being able to actually see the ball.
Well, especially the way that they film, right? They film now for a giant 65-inch TV. So it's very widescreen. You see so much because they're assuming you've got a big TV. But now all of a sudden you take that image and you put it on a tiny screen. You can't see the ball. You can't see the players. So unless you're going to film it totally differently, much more zoomed in, that's going to be a different
look. Even that wouldn't really. I mean, hey, come on over. Watch the game
on my phone.
Yeah.
So
like
football's an event.
Still can't see what's going on.
Football's an event, and an event is a big screen type of thing. What's interesting, though, when you think about the different tech providers, someone that I know, an executive at Facebook, they say, look, Facebook is free. We don't charge a monthly subscription. Amazon does for Amazon Prime. So they are better set up to take money in and be effectively a cable channel. Because think about when you do HBO, you're paying them your $15 a month. Netflix is $12 a month, whatever it is. So like Amazon is much more like that than a Facebook or a Google. So he said, don't expect a lot of Facebook to get involved in here. Don't expect Google to get involved in here. We are not set up from a business model to be a primary provider because we don't take in a monthly subscription fee. So that's going to be something to watch in the future.
How easy would it be for Facebook to say, hey, give us $5 and watch the NFL? Like if they really wanted to do that with their massive audience, they could be bigger than Amazon Prime. Like
they could be, but it's just interesting that they run their business off of ads. Because you don't think of Amazon as running off ads. You think of it as like, no, you buy from Amazon. You don't buy anything from Facebook. It's just something to watch. They could change it, but it's something to watch over the next couple of years. Of these big tech players, maybe Amazon's going to have that leg up in terms of if they want to go all in, they could. And then also think about, you've seen other sports. Motorsports is a good example, some of the series there. NHL is another good example. They took a little bit more money to be on a lower level cable tier on your cable channels. You don't necessarily know what channel number that is. You can't necessarily find it. You're not getting all the highlights on ESPN because ESPN's not airing those games. And all of a sudden, their ratings are going down. So that's going to be something the NFL has to watch. Do we take top dollar right now if it means fewer eyeballs down the road?
I don't see them doing that. All right, Siri, give us the next digit.
850%.
850%. That is the difference in viewership of EA Sports' Madden Bowl. That's literally people competitively playing Madden against each other, the video game. That's between 2018 and 2019. Eric, this is getting popular. Here's the guy who won the Madden Bowl. You're just seeing that on the screen. Yeah. This last cycle, that season's going to get started again as well. eSports is starting to crop up alongside the regular sports leagues. We've seen it in the NBA. There's like an adjacent sort of league running right alongside it. I mean, this could be really big.
Did you see the story? It just came out in the past 48 hours. Pizza Hut is doing a stadium sponsorship in Madden 20. So when they have their video game championship and you're looking at the video game stadium, not a real stadium, a video game stadium, it will say Pizza Hut Stadium when the video game players
And
are
Pizza
playing.
Hut paid for that.
Pizza Hut is paying to be in a video game stadium.
At
That's
the same
new this
time
year.
that they're eliminating restaurants that you can actually sit in, Pizza Hut is getting rid of real
exactly. It's
restaurants
more
and pay
important for us
delivery.
to sponsor video game stadiums than to actually have places that you can eat pizza.
Yes. Now, I mean, doesn't that speak to the importance of technology to this business overall? I mean, practically speaking, I don't know if I've ever been to a regular season NFL game. So the stadium might as well be virtual as far as I'm concerned, right? Like, I've never personally been there.
But if you watch an empty stadium, it is weird and creepy.
Yes.
You need the audience there, but you'd almost think, like, hey, we'll let you in for free just to get the crowd noise because it's all a TV show. Why
that's
even
what
pay?
I'm
We
saying.
need you to be there.
It's all virtual if you're not physically there anyway, right? Like, in a way. So it kind of makes sense for Pizza Hut to be spending this money. It just kind of blows my mind that there's this entire virtual league and virtual play that's running alongside the real game and not necessarily taking interest away from it. It's building the brand overall. That's not the way I saw this playing out.
It's also another way that they're trying to reach that young demographic. We talked about high school participation going down in football because it's dangerous. But you can't get a concussion playing video game football. So if they can at least get fans that way,
You can.
Hey, I mean, you can.
I remember when I was a kid, sometimes those controllers
You might get
fly.
your thumbs might get sore.
Right.
But generally speaking, you're less likely to get a concussion
Much less, yes.
playing video game football. But if that's a way that they can keep that audience engaged, that's going to be good for their future. Hey, they play video game football. They want to watch regular football just to have some sense connecting it back to reality. So that's another piece of technology that's keeping them plugged into the young guys.
Just like you can get your kneecaps broken gambling. Siri, give us this last digit.
11.
11. Sounds familiar. That is how many months it took for New Jersey to overtake Nevada as the sports betting capital of the U.S. based on total per month wagers. I mean, and people are.
And they passed again in July. It was May and July. New Jersey passed Nevada.
Yeah.
So now they're neck and neck. They're basically the same.
But I mean, come on. New Jersey. I mean, when I think of New Jersey, I think of guys smoking cigars and these hats with a ribbon around them at a racetrack.
You live in New
maybe.
Jersey.
I know, but when I think of New Jersey and gambling, I should say, not when I think of New Jersey and
right.
When I think of New Jersey, I think of my kids and my wife. But when I think of New Jersey gambling, that's what I think of. But that's not what it is anymore. It's this, right?
So that's, again, we're talking about technology. The main difference why New Jersey is taking over all these other states in gambling, they have been the most permissive in terms of allowing mobile and online gambling. 80% of the New Jersey bets, the dollars bet, 80% of those dollars are coming off of mobile and online. And because New York and Pennsylvania don't have that same lax, let's say, the lax rules, a lot of people from Philadelphia, New York City, they're just driving or taking a bridge, tunnel, subway, whatever, right over the border, putting their bets in, and they're going right back. Because we can basically see New Jersey from here. You could get there in 20 minutes, put the bets, come right back, and you don't have to be there for the game. You just have to get your bets in and then come back home and then watch the games back at home. So they're getting the millions of people in Philly and New York coming to do this on mobile and online. Right now, there's 12 states that have some version of legalized sports gambling. Only 5 of them have some version of online or mobile access. You're going to see a state like Tennessee, which doesn't have any casinos. They're thinking about, what if we just do exclusively mobile and online sports gambling? So that's going to be the growth area. There's twice as many sports books in New Jersey now than there were a year ago. So if you thought
Twice as many.
Because think about it, it's only the second year. Last year was the first year. So now all the bigger companies are starting to catch up. They're starting to do their thing. Fox Bet just launched this week, right? That's a media company owning a sports book. That's new. That didn't exist a week ago. Certainly didn't exist a year ago. Again, that's another online, New Jersey-based mobile sports gambling operation. So you're going to see bigger numbers this year. And a lot of experts think by the end of this football season, New Jersey will be far and away bigger than Nevada. And maybe Nevada will never come back to being the #1 gambling state.
Well, let's keep talking gambling and betting. Eric, stick around. Stick around with me. And let's stick with gambling. DraftKings CEO Jason Robbins joins us now from Boston. Jason, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So how big is the NFL overall right now as a piece of what you're doing? How important is this 100th season?
Oh, the NFL is the most important time of year for us, especially the start of the season. It's the most important time for us to get new customers on the platform. We post all of our big season-long promotions. We actually just posted some Ezekiel Elliott stuff today with the news he signed. So We updated the Cowboys odds of winning the Super Bowl, posted some player props for him. We're actually running some promotions for Ezekiel Elliott, so team was all over that one.
Let's talk about last year and maybe the year before that. What kind of impact did you see from, if any, from the cultural turmoil that was surrounding the NFL?
You know, from our standpoint, we don't see much impact. It's really, for us, it seems like it almost isn't happening. And, I realize there's a lot of moving parts in terms of ratings and other things, so it's hard to tell what's going on there. But, it's really hard to know really how it affects the game. What I can tell you for sure is that it doesn't really have much of an effect on our customers. They continue to play fantasy, they continue to bet, and also part of that might be we're growing, so it's hard to tell if there is an impact too.
Jason, I've seen your offices in Hoboken. There's a lot of interesting activity going on there from a technology point of view. What do you guys see from, how do I put this, the technology, the analytics on getting users to come on board? Because you see these $500 coupons, discounts, promos, whatever you want to call that online. What is the lifetime value of a customer? What's the right kind of advertisement to get that customer to come on board? And all the analytics that you're going to get to do here in season 2 for you guys, you're going to get growth rates for the first time.
Well, you're absolutely right. It's really a phase where we're learning, and this is going to be the first time we've actually seen year-over-year performance for our online sportsbook product in New Jersey. So everyone's pretty excited and, looking at the early charts to see what's happening. As far as what the best way to get people on the platform is, we're always optimizing that. We're always putting new offers out in market. This year we tried a $500 deposit bonus, and that seems to be going really well. Last year we did a match free bet. Which we still have this year, so we added the deposit bonus on top of that. But we're always looking at different things, and as you noted earlier, it's so early that I'd be surprised if we hit on what the best ones are yet. But certainly people seem to like the deposit bonus, they seem to like the free bet, and they really like the odds boost promos we're doing, where we're giving special boosted odds on a bunch of different markets. Especially people like doing that for the futures on the Super Bowl winners and things like that.
Jason, where's the technology going with this? I mean, we were talking about streaming, we were talking about eSports. I mean, I know there's separate platforms now for eSports betting, but do you think that becomes a part, eSports becomes a part of the sports betting scene?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, eSports, like, other sports, it has to go through its own process of forming structures that allow for competitions that are consistent. And right now there are those, but it's sort of the beginning days where there will, I'm sure, be consolidation, and there'll become, I don't know if there'll ever be like an NFL or Major League Baseball or NBA or NHL of esports, but there will be established leagues, there will be established tournaments, and already some of that's coming together. So, naturally, like any spectator event, we think that fantasy and betting can be a big part of it, and we think that esports in particular is very well suited to that because, due to the nature of the game, the publishers have all kinds of real-time information they can pass along that can enhance the experience, which you can do with real sports, but you have to collect the data from the field of play or the court or the ice, and that just makes it a little bit more challenging. Whereas, with esports, you can in true real time feed anything you want over to the fantasy and betting companies, which allows us to do some pretty cool and innovative things.
Jason, what do you think about the launch of Fox Bet in New Jersey? That's the first time here in the United States a major media platform is actually getting involved, owning a piece of their own sports book. It's different from you guys. Obviously, you guys are not a TV network. What do you feel about trying to compete with them when all of a sudden you go to their website and it's pictures of their talent, Colin Cowherd, Carissa Thompson, all these guys that are going to be, they leverage that Fox personality to compete against you. How do you guys balance that coming at it from a different business model?
Well, I think it's a great thing, first of all, that Fox Bet is here. Right now, the focus for everyone, we believe, should be on growing the category, making it more mainstream, making sure that there's thought and, real consideration put into how this thing develops, and having more, high recall brand name, real premium partners and players like Fox in the market really helps with that. It makes it so that people may, view it as more legitimate and more mainstream than they previously did. It brings a lot of money into marketing and growing the space. So we think it's a great thing overall. And, our strategy hasn't changed. We continue to focus on having the best product, the best user experience, and the best customer service, and really making sure that we are the most customer-centric company. And I think our belief all along has been you do those things well. What's really important is to see the market grow, because if we feel we're creating the best experience and over the long term are going to have the best product, then we'll do quite well, and really a bigger market is better for us. And I think at this stage, frankly, it's better for everybody. This is kind of that gold rush time where everybody should be able to do pretty well for the next few years, unless we don't do it right. So that's the most important thing.
At the beginning of the season, hope springs eternal, and it certainly is an interesting market. Jason, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Eric Chemi, thanks for being with me as well.
Thanks for having me as well.
Coming up on the podcast, I can't even really tie this in. It's got nothing to do with the NFL or sports, but it's a lot of fun. The rapper Jim Jones has partnered with the jeweler Alex Todd to basically come up with weed products, saucy farms and extracts. I sat down with them, talked to them about their business, to Jim Jones about his expertise in pot. It goes deep, as you might imagine. Go ahead and take a listen on the podcast. For now, that'll do it for Fort Knox. We'll see you next week.